Have you ever think of trauma as water? Every human being in this world has their own cup. Everyone has a different cup. But usually, the older you are, the bigger the cup is. Your 40-year-old self will probably be able to contain more water than your 25-year-old self. Now imagine if you are 9, getting poured by so much water not even a grown-up could handle. Usually, this is where parents come to the rescue. They will scoop out the water out of their kid's cup so they can breathe a little, so they can handle it. Now, what happens if you don't have a functional parental figure as a kid? Or maybe it's the parent who kept pouring the water to you. Human brain works in mysterious ways, and they will do anything to protect you. They will make fake scenarios, they can manipulate your emotions and how it reacts. And in this case, what will the brain do when the kid had too much water to handle? They will start making more cups. They will start making another presence in their mind. And it can be a different version of the kid. It can be the parental figure they really wanted to have. It could be anything. And I think this is what happens to Fuji SUNAO, the protagonist of Eve's new song, Insomnia. Hello everyone, welcome to today's song analysis. Cause today we're gonna talk about Eve's new single with the new released music video, Insomnia. The story itself is about a guy named Fuji SUNAO, an 18-year-old high school boy who lives alone while bearing both a lot of physical and mental illness. According to the great, the GOAT, the one and only Mariyasu-san, Fuji SUNAO is someone who faints a lot randomly in school hallways. He has nosebleeds all the time, which made him to be the kid who could never participate in PE class. And not only that, he also seems to be having an eating disorder as he would often let out everything he ate. One very noticeable thing about him though is his scar. It is shown multiple times in the music video that he has a lot of them. In his face, in his hands, even his chest, and possibly even more. Which is why he wears long sleeves shirt even in the summer. As for his mental state, if you watch the music video, you can clearly see he is depressed. He has trouble sleeping, his room is messy, which is a very common trait for people who are struggling with depression, by the way. Not because they are lazy, but depression can make it really hard for people to stay focused and have the energy to do simple daily things. As the lyric says, it hurts to even just get through the day. I don't even know what day it is. He also seems to have regular appointment with a psychiatrist who prescribed him all these meds. And there's even a scene where it shows his brain scan. And I was praying that it could give us any sort of hint of what kind of illness he has, but I couldn't find anything. So just to put a disclaimer, a lot of things that I say after this will be my own speculation and theory, where everyone can have their own interpretation, and this is by no means canon lore. What is canon though is the fact that he has one confirmed disease, and that is the balloon syndrome. Balloon syndrome is a syndrome that views humans as balloons, but just the head though. The thing is, he can't see humans as normal humans if they are fiction. So when he watches animes, movies, or games where there's like a human character, he sees them with an actual human head. Meanwhile, for real humans in like posters or like ads, he sees them as like balloons. This is actually hinted in the beginning of the music video, where there are people crossing the road as balloon heads while there's like this cardboard of a little kid, human kid, and he sees it as a normal human head, probably because this is a fictional character. And because everyone's head are balloons, this makes it hard for him to differentiate facial expressions. And at the same time, this will make his own facial expressions always exaggerated, because he can only learn it from animes and movies. He can somehow still see animals though. But yeah, as the lyric says, even if I convey those words, we'll never see each other eye to eye. So quit preaching. At first, I thought this was about people not understanding, but turns out, because of the balloon disease, it is quite literally that Fuji SUNAO cannot see eye to eye to people, which explains how disconnected he is to the society. The day was 28th March. just one day before Fuchi's birthday. He woke up after a call from Otogiri, which he rejected, and as he opened his eyes, you'll see a reflection of someone. Or is it something? Well, this person is called Mr. Creepypasta. A pretty silly name considering he is a Zingai. And in case you didn't know, Zingai is a supernatural entities that exist in the EVE cinematic universe. It is explained in the Kara no Kyoku manga that every Zingai has its own human host, and they are the representation of their person's feelings, desires, and emotional state. A lot of Zingais actually took reference from Japanese mythology and folklore. For example, Hitotsume-sama's name was based off of Hitotsume Kozo, while Mr. Creepypasta himself is based off of Slender Man, which is literally an internet creepypasta. Stories of Slender Man commonly feature stalking, abducting, and traumatizing people, particularly children. Prior to this, Mr. Creepypasta also appears on the Fight Song music video where Toby was the protagonist. Strangely, while Toby was fighting literally everyone else, he didn't seem to fight Mr. Creepypasta. But anyways, the video starts with the quite disturbing sight of SUNAO attempting to self-exit by hanging himself. But thank God he failed, and so he goes on with his day, eating instant ramen as breakfast, throwing up, goes to work, just normal stuffs. Fuchi actually works on a night shift at a DVD rental service place. Here, while at work, you can see him apologizing profusely to a customer. It's not really shown why, but it seems like it's a trivial matter because he secretly sighed like The interesting thing is, Mariyasu, the character designer / animator, have uploaded a character sheet where it shows that this is the eye shape of Fuji when he was sleepwalking, which is exactly what he shows here while facing the angry customer, as he fantasized about pew-pewing the annoying customer's head and then got caught and appears on national news. Now please take note that throughout the whole music video, we will switch in between worlds, which can be recognized by the change of the color palette. The real world has a more dark green, desaturated tone, while the dream world, which is the world that will appear whenever SUNAO is either sleeping or sleepwalking, is presented with a more colorful yellows and greens with like a certain dot patterns. By the way, this dot pattern is usually called screen tone, and it is something that is often used in comics or manga. So I wonder if they put this on purpose to tell us which one is reality and which one is not. While the last one, the black and white frames, will represent the memories that he has in the past. Remember, because this is important. After this scene, you can see SUNAO coming back home from work like a normal person, and once he fell asleep, he will enter the dream realm that I talked about before again, which is why I call it the dream realm, because it seems like he can only enter it once he's asleep. There, you'll see him closing his eyes to sleep, and as he opened it, he was in the dream world as the child form of him. Now let's call this form Buti, or Baby Fuchi. And I gave him a whole other nickname because I want to address him as another person, another entity that is different from the normal Fuchi. One important thing to notice here is that this Baby Fuchi at first was shown with dark green eyes, the same color as the grown-up Fuchi. But then you'll see a big yellow eyes opened in the sky as Mr. Creepypasta showed up, hugging Buchi from behind. And somehow, like something happened here, because after that hug, his eye color suddenly changed into bright yellow, as the lyric says, "Rush from the ashes," as if he's like reincarnated as a different person. However, this child is not like other children. He doesn't seem to even have the same personality as the real Fuchi. You can kind of see this baby Fuchi is way brighter and more playful, and somehow has a desire to pew people in the head. He seems to really like Mr. Creepypasta though, as they are shown here laughing while being like ruffled in the head. And Mr. Creepypasta does look like a parental figure both Fuchi and baby Fuchi really wanted to have. And up till here, I thought, hey, maybe he's a good guy. But then, you'll see Fuchi waking up in the middle of the night, using the same yellow coat used by the baby Fuchi in the dream realm. Here you can see him getting dragged by Mr. Creepypasta, but from the CCTV camera, you will only see him walking on his own. That's because Zingai is not visible to normal humans. He seems to be going into a very crowded place where there's a lot of people, which seems to be a place similar to the Shibuya crossings. It really makes me anxious though how he looks like half conscious while literally carrying a gun. Even though it was later revealed that it was a model gun, not a real gun, in the news, but still, it looks worrying. Some people even live streamed him because it's just so suspicious. And the comments were like, "Yaba, yabai. Please report him. Please stop recording and call the police." Because people are worried he will start pew-pewing people, And they were right, because after this, he will randomly start to pew-pew people. Remember the trauma analogy with water I talked about in the beginning of the video? Where trauma is like water, and a person who cannot handle their trauma and has no support system to share the water has to create more and more glasses to cope with reality. That was actually an explanation of someone who developed dissociative identity disorder, or DID. People who cannot handle their trauma will create more glass to hold the water for them. And by glass, I mean their brain actually creates a whole other identity. These are called alters. Alters can exist in many forms, but according to Dissociative Identity Disorder Sourcebook by Haddock D, one of the more common alters was the child alters, where they are often found to hold the memory of child abuse, as it is generally agreed upon in the scientific community that DID is typically formed during childhood as a protective mechanism against trauma. I do want to clarify though that I do not want to label SUNAO as someone with DID. It is still a question for me too. I just find a lot of hints and similarities that does help me make sense of things that are happening in the story. In the part where he did the mass pew-pew, you can see how he kind of changed in between Fuchi, the real one, and the baby Fuchi. And in some frames, Fuchi just looks lost. Meanwhile, baby Fuchi seems to really enjoy it the most, as if at that time his personality switched into baby Fuchi. And somehow, after that scene, it is suddenly switched, where all you can see is Fuchi in his house, chilling in his pajamas, brushing his teeth, while watching the news of an incident that is caused by someone random pew-pewing on the Shibuya crossings at the 28th March around 11 p.m., which is literally him, leaving him confused, and all that's left is baby Fuchi pointing and laughing at him. Again, this is my personal theory, but I believe the reason Fuchi is confused is because he genuinely did not remember any of this. The pew-pew people happened when baby Fuchi was the one in control. And for people with DID, these alters have their own memory, which means when identity A took over, the identity B will not remember what happened, which is why one of their common characteristics is having memory gaps. People with DID can be cooking in the kitchen like at lunch, and then suddenly it's like dinner time, and then you're like in the living room watching TV while having no memory of what you did like for the past few hours. But that does not mean that the other identity will be forever clueless about what happened, because there's something called co-consciousness where they could like just tell each other about it and remember it later, which seems to be what is happening here to SUNAO. Realizing the kind of situation he was in, as the police might come to him soon, Fuchi starts running away while also chasing the baby Fuchi outside. Again, this supports my theory of how he did not remember any of it, because if he did, why would he be chilling in his pajamas when he could just run away right after he did all of it? You'll also see a scene of him fighting baby Fuchi as he ran away. These are called co-consciousness. It happens when more than one alter is awake or in control of the body. But all of that is kind of in his mind. We, as viewers, are shown the point of view of outsiders who can only see him fighting himself. himself, while the fighting happening in his mind was shown on the screen. This fight will eventually make him lose control and somehow fell into the stairs and then to the street where a truck is passing by. It's so ironic though how in this scene you'll switch into Fuchi's point of view where it seems like a light is approaching. As the lyric says, no one can steal that light from you. As if there's hope or something, when literally it's a light from a truck that's about to take his life. On the brink of death, somehow his life flashes before his eyes. A lot of people did say that in a life and death situation where it seems like your death is approaching, the world seems to stop and fragments of your whole life starts appearing in front of you like a recap. Now remember when I said people with DID have memory gaps and how they create the child alter to seal the trauma in that identity? Since the memory is in that alter, this basically makes the original personality not remembering that part of their life, which seems to be the case for Fuchi because in this part of the music video, it does seem like he has some kind of realization. It's like he finally saw the memories of baby Fuchi, who is always alone, who used to have an alcoholic, abusive father, who is also physically abused, who is thrown boiling water by his father, which caused him all those scars. At the time, he finally starts to realize how baby Fuchi is the one who created Mr. Creepypasta as a parental figure that he needs so much, that will be the one who took walks with him, who hugs him in his sleep, who protect him from his own father, basically creating another presence, creating another glass that helps him go through all those traumas. And just like child alters, caretaker or protector alters is also one of the very common types of alters for people with DID. Ultimately, Mr. Creepypasta is just a Zingai, an alter ego he created in his mind to protect him. Though I don't really know how one becomes a Zingai, so it doesn't necessarily mean that Fuchi created Mr. Creepypasta, but I think he did create Mr. Creepypasta's presence in his mind as a way to cope with his trauma. I don't really know how Zingai works either, because some people can see them and some cannot, which makes me wonder what actually happened here when Mr. Creepypasta strangled Fuchi's father and then putting like a cable cord to hang him and made it look like a self-exit. And a lot of people might think it is Mr. Creepypasta's doing, but to me, it seems like it's all just a scenario baby Fuchi made up to cope with reality. It's just a way baby Fuchi's brain tries to comprehend everything. Because I think if you're like 9 years old, it is easier to think that your father passed away because a monster killed them, rather than witnessing him self-exit because of his own problems that he can't solve. And Fuchi, the grown-up Fuchi, did not remember any of this because he created another glass, baby Fuchi, to handle his childhood memories, because it only brings him trauma. So in order to function like a normal high school kid, he put this memory into another glass, which is why Fuchi seems like a normal person while baby Fuchi seems to have like bad intentions towards people, because he's hurting all this time. Realizing this, Fuchi hugged baby Fuchi from behind, maybe out of guilt, thinking of how all this time it was his little self that has to handle all those trauma. It is really sad though to see him hugging baby Fuchi from the back, the same way Mr. Creepypasta did when he awakens the yellow eye from baby Fuchi. But this time, instead of an awakening, Fuchi's hug towards his little self is the one that will make the dream realm collapse. And after this, you'll see him meet Mr. Creepypasta and him to make him disappear once and for all. Okay, that was a long one, but I think it's worth it though because it did end up in a good manner. Like after everything that's happened, Fuchi's balloon disease ends up being cured. And thankfully, he's able to see people's head now. He's alive, but he's in jail, as you see Tobi Otogiri visiting him at the end of the music video. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but this frame somehow reminds me of Tobi in Inochi no Tabekata. Even the kanji in there is both yoru. As for Mr. Creepypasta, he's still there. Fuchi did the Mr. Creepypasta on the Dream Realm, and he did appear to be bleeding from the eyes as if he just cried. But just as the ID has no cure, I don't think Mr. Creepypasta, along with baby Fuchi, can actually disappear completely. That doesn't mean Fuchi can't get any better though. They can always heal and be better with the help of professionals. I don't particularly think Mr. Creepypasta is evil though, but I do think he was the one planning to take over Fuchi. Because once you know everything, this scene where baby Fuchi laughs when they talk together does not seem like such an innocent encounter anymore. Because everything that happened after this, it all leads to the incident. So yeah, definitely not innocent, but maybe he did all of this thinking that this is the only way to heal both Fuchi and baby Fuchi. It does seem like there's no actual casualties on the incident though, as in no one passed away, because the news report did not mention any of it, and I don't know if it's just a censorship things, but the only one we see bleeding all over in this whole music video is Fuchi. But he did cause a public disturbance though, and a major traffic accident, so yeah, still makes sense if he's in jail. And even though it is still a question for me too, whether Fuji SUNAO actually has the ID or not, but like just researching about it really made me learn a lot, so I hope maybe you'll also find something useful in this video. Thank you so much for watching up till here. It's a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it, and see you on the next one. Bye!